Okay, so the yarn that I used is the Joanne Fabrics brand Big Twist and Hush. If you've been watching my channel, you know I recently made a blanket with this yarn, so I had a skein and a half left over, or a cake and a half left over, and I can say with confidence if you want to make this scarf with this yarn, you'll need 2 cakes of it. The color that I went with is light gray, even though it kind of looks blue in some lights. And the hook I'm using is a 9mm. Now you can use any size yarn for this. You can even turn this into a blanket or a throw pillow. It does not have to be a scarf at all. But you can use any size yarn. And if you don't have any jumbo yarn, this is a number 5 yarn. If you don't have any, you can just use 2 strands of worsted weight yarn together, and it will give you the same result. Okay, let's get right into this. So you're going to start off with, I went with 15 and then I added 2. You can do any number of chains as long as you end in an odd number and then add 2. So I'm going to go ahead and do like what I did before. I'm going to do 15 and then add 2. And the additional 2 will be our builder chain. It's not going to count as a stitch. Okay, so 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. I'll be back whenever I have a total of 17. Okay, so here I have my 17. The last 2, like I said before, is a builder chain, as we will be working with a linked double crochet stitch. Let me bring this way. I'm trying to avoid working out of frame. Again, if you watch my channel, you know I've been having trouble with working my way out of frame. Okay, so we have our 2 chains here. You're going to not yarn over, but in the second chain from the hook. So here's your first one, and I'm working in the back bumps. Here's your first one here, and your second one. You will go into the back bump or the side of the chain if that's where you feel more comfortable, and you'll pull up a loop and stop. In the next chain over, you will go into that back bump and pull up a loop. Now we work a double crochet like normal. Pull through 2, pull through 2. And you will see that right here on the side of our stitch, here is the way our stitch will sit. This is the top of our stitch here. And here is the side of the top of our stitch. Here we go. Now you can clearly see there's the top of our stitch right here. We have the top side of our stitch. We're going to ignore that. And the second bar down that you see is the one we're going to work into. You will see another bar right here. We're also not going to work into that. We are just going to work into this middle side bar. So here we go. We come back and we go into that. Again, here's the top. We ignore it and we go into that second side bar down. And we pull up a loop. This we are treating like our yarn over. That's why we don't yarn over with this stitch. Okay, so we pull up that loop, and then in the next back bump over, we go in and we pull up a loop. Now we have 3 loops on our hook, and we just yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, pull through 2 like a regular double crochet. And you will see we now have that sidebar right here again. The next sidebar is always going to be coming out of this first sidebar. That way this doesn't look like the next sidebar, because it's not. So we go into that sidebar, we pull up a loop, come into the next chain over, pull up a loop, and work our double crochet. Now you can see that we are actually beginning to form a line. The line will always lead right into our next sidebar, which is going to be right here. And like I said before, the next sidebar you need to work in is always coming, it looks like it's kind of swirling out of this one. Like see, boop, boop. Here we go. Pull up a loop, pull up a loop, and work our double crochet. And we repeat. I find it easier with the first row to work with my work going up and down like this. The next row we'll be able to work it this way, and every row after that. But the first one, because of the chain, it's just so much easier to work it this way. There we go. I can see my next bar right there. And then the back bump. The next bar right there. And then the back bump. Sorry, I had to cough. So I stopped rolling for a second. Okay, we're going to do this all the way to the end. I'm just going to go ahead and work this first row all the way with you. Then we will work the next row. After that, I will give you some instruction before we get into the other stitches that we're going to use, which are much, much easier. Not that this is hard, but if you've never done it before, it can be a little fiddly and wonky and weird at first. Then you really get used to it. I have fallen in love with the link double crochet. I've been using it for quite some time now. For a lot of situations, it has completely replaced the double crochet for me. All right, getting close to the end now. There we go. Couple more left. I quite like it, and I love the different type of texture that it gives. You know, with like the line, and then whenever you put the next row up, you see that this is how it will appear. It's just very unique looking. It really truly is. Okay, only 2 left. That is 1, and then the last one, our very last chain right here. Work into that. Okay, so there is our row 1. Now, with link double crochet, you will always chain 2, which is only your builder chain. This never counts as a stitch. You turn, and we're not going to work in the second chain. We're going to work in the very first chain we made, and we're going to work in the front loop only. If we worked in this loop, which is much easier to access, our lines, our sides will look gnarled and kind of chunky. So that's why we work in this one, to keep it nice and clean. All right, and let's go into that front loop only of that first chain. There we go. Pull up a loop. We treat that first chain like it's a sidebar. Then we go into the top of our very first stitch. We do not skip any stitches here because, like I said, this does not count as a stitch. It's just our builder. And there we go. Now this row and every row after this will go by so much faster because we are no longer working with the chain. So you're just going to work your link double crochet for 4 total rows. Okay, here are my 4 rows of link double crochet. Now let's move on to the next row. You're going to chain 4, turn, and this chain 4 counts as a double crochet plus chain 1, so we're not going to work in this very first stitch, and we're going to skip the next stitch over, and in this one we're going to work a puff stitch, just a 3 wrap puff stitch, because this yarn is so thick. Now if you decide to use a single strand worsted weight yarn, for example, I would do a 4 or 5 wrap, but with this thick yarn, okay, we're not going to work in this one. We're going to skip the next stitch over. We're just going to do a 3 wrap. So that's 1, 2, and 3. And you can see how hefty that 3 wrap is. It doesn't need to be very big. There we go. Then we chain 1. We skip the next stitch over. And in the next one, we're going to work our 3 wrap puff. So 1, 2, and 3. Pull through all of your loops except for this very last one. Then yarn over and pull through like it's a single crochet and chain 1. You're going to skip 1, and in the next one you work 1, 2, and 3. And just for reference, that's going to leave you with 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and if you count your starting loops, 7. Pull through 6 of those loops, leaving that starting 7th loop unworked. Then you yarn over and pull through both of those loops, and then you chain 1. And we're going to do that all the way to the end. And you should end with your last puff stitch in the 3rd from the last stitch. So your last puff stitch here, then you will skip this stitch. Sorry, your last puff stitch plus chain 1, skip this one, and then work a double crochet in the end. So let's work the rest of this puff stitch row together if you don't want to work ahead. There we go. Nope, that was wrong. We're doing puffs. 1, 2, and 3. Here we go. Chain 1, skip 1, and then work 1, 2, and 3. There we go. Chain 1, skip 1, and here we go. We perfectly lined up. Work our last puff stitch of this row. That's 1, 2, and 3. Chain 1, skip the next one, and in the very last stitch, work a double crochet. Now you will chain 3, turn, and in this chain 1 space right here, work 2 double crochet. And all together, this will count as your first granny stitch with the chain 3 counting as a double crochet. Now without chaining at all, between the 2 puffs, that chain 1 space, we're going to work all of our granny stitches. And a granny stitch is just going to consist of 3 double crochet. So 1, 2, and 3. Again, we don't chain at all. We just immediately yarn over and start working our next group of granny stitch or double crochets. Without chaining, we yarn over and work our next granny stitch all the way to the end. And always between the 2 puff stitches. And this does crowd this row. This row will wind up with more stitches than you need. It doesn't matter because we're not going to be working in them really, not at all. They're just there to add, excuse me, a bit of chunkiness. Because this is a chunky scarf. We want chunkiness and we want texture. Okay, now right here we have our chain 4 that we started off with on the puff row. Well, that's going to count as our double crochet plus chain 1. So here's how we're going to work that. And we're also going, well, let me just show you. Okay, yarn over and work 2 double crochet in that chain 1 space. Now, instead of, traditionally, we would work our last double crochet in the top of this chain 3 that's remaining, but we're not going to do that. We're going to instead work in the second chain, the middle chain, because if we work in this top chain here, it's going to create exactly what you're seeing now. It does create sort of a puckered look to the side of the scarf. So instead, we're not going to work in that one. We're going to work in the middle one, the second one. There we go. And that keeps everything. Now you can see how we have way too many stitches. It's not a problem. Now we chain 4 and we repeat the puff row, but this time we're going to be working between the granny stitches, and that'll kind of gather everything together. So 1, 2, and 3, chain 1, skip over the next 3 double crochet, and in the space, because we didn't chain 1, so in this little space between, go ahead and work your next puff, 2 and 3, pull through, chain 1, skip over the next granny cluster, granny stitch. I'm not exactly sure what that's called. I always just referred to it as a granny stitch. There we go, chain 1. I'm going to just go ahead and work this all the way to the end with you. This is a really fast pattern. Like, I made the whole scarf in about an hour and 15 minutes. No exaggeration. 2 and 3. Chain 1. 1, 2, and 3. There we go. Chain 1. Yarn over, and just like we did before, we're not going to work into the top of this chain 3 over here. We're going to work into the second chain down. Okay, now you can see how overpacking it has allowed these stitches to kind of puff up a little bit right here, but they're all regathered again like they should be. And I think it kind of looks like raspberries or something to me. It looks like berries, but anyways, so yeah, we do pack it with the granny stitch, but then the puff stitch kind of brings it all back and gives us a nice, cool, fun, chunky texture. Now, we're going to repeat the granny row, then we're going to repeat the puff row one more time each. We want a total of 3 puff rows and 2 of the granny stitch rows, okay? So, you're going to start off, just as a quick reminder before I let you go to it, you're going to start off with a chain 3 turn, and in this first chain 1 space, you'll work 2 double crochet, and this counts as your first granny stitch. And then again, without chaining, we immediately jump over between the 2 puffs and start working our next granny stitch or 3 double crochet group. Okay, so go ahead and repeat the granny stitch row, and then one more time repeat this puff stitch row, and then we're done with this section and we will move on to the next. Okay, I have finished my repeat, so you can see I've got 3 rows of puff. You always want your last row to be row of puff. Then I've got my 2 rows of the granny stitch. Now let's move on, and this will be the start of our first repeat. So, well, technically this was our first repeat, so the start of our second repeat, forgive me. So we're going to chain 2, because we're starting link double crochet again. You're going to, into that first chain, front loop only, there we go, and into the very first double crochet right here, we work a double crochet, or link double crochet. Then we start up our next one, and in the chain 1 space, we work our next link double crochet. Then we start our next one up, and in the top of this puff stitch, we work our next link double crochet. And we will repeat this all the way to the end. You should end. See, I started with 15 stitches, 2 being my builder chain, which don't count. You should end with the same stitches you started off with, minus your builder chain. So I should have 15 link double crochet. I'll be back whenever I get to the end of this row. Okay, just coming to the end of the row here. I'm going to work my last 2 stitches with you so you can see how we do this for the remainder of the scarf every time we start a new repeat. So I'm going to start my link double crochet and then come into what would be a chain 1 space, because we started off with a chain 4 here. So that was a double crochet plus chain 1. So I'm going to work a link double crochet in that chain 1 space. Then I'm going to work my last one in the second chain down. I never work in the top of that 3rd chain on big puffy items like this. There we go. And that is how it should be looking. Now you will repeat this 3 more times for a total of 4. This is the repeat right here. Your 4 rows of link double crochet, and then this whole section here where you've got your 3 rows of puff stitch separated by 2 rows of your granny stitch. And that's it. You just keep repeating that. So you will, of course, and let's count real quick too. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, and 15. So that's perfect. So then you'll just chain 2, start in the front loop only of chain 1, and right in this first stitch here, start working your link double crochet again. There we go. And just do that all the way across. And work this pattern repeat until you have, let me measure out that scarf real quick. Okay, just measured it out. See, I didn't really measure it out. I just stopped after I wrapped it around myself a few times and thought to myself, no, let's do one more repeat, because I wanted it to be a little bit longer. So folded in half, it measured at 29 inches. So that's going to be 60 inches in length. And what I did is I had this from the blanket that I made a couple weeks back, or a week ago. My blanket was made of these 2 colors here. So with what I had left over from my blanket, I just cut off lengths about this long here. Well, I guess you can't really see that, can you? It was about, you would think I would have had all these measurements before I started filming, but no, about a foot. Just about 1 foot long. And then I would fold it in half, and I only worked 1 piece because it's such chunky yarn. I only worked 1 piece in all 15 stitches on both sides. And so, yeah, and I think it's cute. And I really like it a lot. It's a nice look, I feel like. But anyways, so yes, very, very nice. And if you do get your hands on some of this yarn, oh my God, you're going to fall in love. But you can follow this pattern exact the way I did, starting off with 15, then add 2, work until you're about 60 inches in length. Let me show you how many repeats of the pattern repeat I worked. Just a moment, let me count them up. Okay, so I counted that I have a total of 7 of this section worked. So I guess that would be a total of 8 of the link double crochet section worked. So that is how many I worked up to achieve the 60 inches, approximately 60 inches, using this specific yarn right here. Okay, guys, that's going to do it for this. I really love this scarf. I hope you guys give it a try. It is so pretty, and I really hope you guys can get your hands on some of this big twist hush, because my goodness, the yarn makes the scarf. No exaggeration. It's very weighted. It's very buttery, soft and smooth. If you've never used hush before, there are no words. You just have to try it, use it to see for yourself. But it's an absolute pleasure to work with. And I will leave a link below. It's not an affiliated link. Joann Stores doesn't know I exist. It's just a link to Joann's this. That's all it is. So that way you can just quickly go and check it out. When I bought this, it was on sale. I don't know if it's still on sale, but Joann often runs sales. So that's kind of cool. So yeah, I will leave a link down below just so that you guys can quickly jump over there and check it out. And I thank you so much for watching this with me. Let me know in the comments what you think. If you liked it, please like, please subscribe so that you don't miss any future videos. And as always, I will see you guys in the next one. Bye. Peace out.